ABC 10 News at 4 starts now.
But we're not different than other Americans. We're all going through the same thing.
Relief for religious leaders who now have a plan to move forward. The public space is opening up to services with nowhere else to go. More eyes on the street in Del Mar to make sure people are following the rules. The fine you could face if you're caught doing something that's not legal. But parents who hire tutors to teach their kids at home could be breaking the law. This will be the new home for gyms and places of worship. County parks are opening up to businesses desperately searching for a way to operate outside. Good afternoon, I'm Kimberly Hunt. It's a major step forward for services that are prohibited indoors with no end in sight. ABC 10 News reporter Jennifer De La Cruz explains how it will work.
A big victory Wednesday for businesses and places of worship who've had to shutter their doors thanks to COVID-19. The County Board of Supervisors approving a proposal opening up 30 parks to hold in-person services and workouts. The move comes after churches and gyms had to shut down indoor operations yet again, many shutting down completely if they didn't have their own outdoor spaces. They can now use county parks free of charge. Pastor Mark Foreman with North Coast Calvary Chapel in Carlsbad says they're fortunate they have enough patio space to stay open.
We are meeting outdoors every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, and there's a little over 400 of us that gather.
Now other churches without outdoor space have a similar option.
It still won't feel normal, but I think I'm thrilled. I don't want we as Christians or even beyond that, religious people, Muslim, Jews, to put ourselves into a corner where we feel like because we can't meet indoors, that we're somehow persecuted.
When indoor church and gym services were restricted for a second time, not everyone complied. The county issued a cease and desist order at the end of July for Awaken, Lighthouse Baptist, and Skyline churches for continuing to hold services indoors. The process for hosting services at parks was modeled after the city of Poway approved a similar measure last month. Businesses can apply for a free permit with the county and do not need to make a reservation. Jennifer De La Cruz, ABC 10 News.
And new today, San Diego County is working to increase testing in the South Bay, which has a high number of coronavirus cases. In the next couple of weeks, the county will launch a no-appointment walk-up testing site at the border.
The location is at the Ped West pedestrian crossing at the San Ysidro port of entry. This entry is for essential workers and U.S. citizens returning to the United States from Mexico, and our testing will focus on essential workers.
They estimate about 200 tests will be conducted every day. This is in addition to the testing site at the San Ysidro Civic Center. Latinos make up about 2/3 of our local number of cases. Here are the latest numbers. Today, there are 348 new cases in the county. The total number now well over 30,000, pushing 31,000. Today, health workers are reporting 10 new deaths. That death toll now 578. And now to a homicide investigation in Chula Vista. Police say a woman was shot to death near the Otay River. A passerby found her body in brush behind a Smart & Final on Main Street this morning. Police found shell casings nearby. Her name has not yet been released. We are waiting for more information from Chula Vista Police.
The search for survivors continuing at the site of that massive explosion in Beirut, Lebanon. Watch this video. If you haven't seen it already, the blast damaging homes and infrastructure across that city. A warehouse at the city's port storing thousands of tons of unsecured, highly explosive material, including ammonium nitrate, is at the center of this explosion. The government's putting some port officials under house arrest while they investigate what happened. Now, the remnants of Isaias is moving through Canada today. Cleanup continuing from North Carolina up to the Northeast. Strong winds and tornadoes causing significant damage. Places like downtown Baltimore, parts of Pennsylvania seeing flooding and waterways cresting as well. Now, at least 7 people were killed in this storm's path. Tornadoes causing the most destruction here at this Windsor, North Carolina mobile home park. Now, as this storm continued to travel north, it brought down power lines, Cars were damaged, buildings were damaged as well. And we're also seeing some massive power outages. You take a look at this video here from New York and New Jersey. New York City electricity officials saying that this storm brought the second most power outages ever. Only Superstorm Sandy was worse. Now, some people may not have power for several days, falling trees claiming several lives in the Northeast.
So when it's windy or rainy, those things blow around like right now. Can you hear that? You see that? So a little storm is one thing, a big storm is another thing.
Now, we spoke with a woman in Ocean Grove, New Jersey, living in a tent community for this summer. Gail Hutton rode out the height of the storm at a family member's house, and she and her nephew were back at the tent later in the afternoon when they were nearly hit by a falling tree.
I said, you know, his name is Jesse. I said, that tree fell in between the moment you left my front door and the less than 5 minutes that I hung up with my friend Charlie's.
Hutton left Florida, actually, to stay in New Jersey and said this was her most adventurous storm.
As mask enforcement conversations ramp up across the county, one city is taking matters into its own hands. ABC 10 News reporter Leah Pizzetti shows us how Del Mar is getting ready to shell out fines that could cost up to $1,000 for people blatantly ignoring health public orders.
You know, there's a whole lot of people in town that are at this point terrified to go out.
Del Mar City Councilman Dave Drucker says the city is ready for real mask enforcement.
Whether or not we should add some supplementary enforcement of the public health order of the county by the sheriff throughout Del Mar.
He says their small community contracts with the sheriff's department for one single deputy to be on the clock 24/7. But with crowds coming to town, that one person is not enough.
Because our budget is based upon 4,000 people, and we have close to 20,000 people on a daily basis here, we thought we should add a little bit of enforcement to this.
They voted to add 2 deputies for 4 hours a week, likely on the weekends, to patrol the streets as usual, with an eye out for people not following county health orders.
They're just to walk through town, making sure that people are obeying the mask rules, the social distancing rules.
And issue up to a $1,000 fine for anyone not willing to follow the rules. This starts up in the next week and will last for 4 months, costing the city $20,000, which some have expressed concern over.
Is this the best use of funds?
Drucker says the city put aside $120,000 for coronavirus relief, and this is coming from that pot, hoping this adds to the safety of visitors and eases the minds of locals.
We thought that it would make sense to see if there's a way that we could allow more people, more of our citizens, to get out without being afraid.
Leah Pizzetti, ABC 10 News.
If any fines are issued, that money does not go to the city of Del Mar, but rather to the county. Also, at this week's meeting, the city council discussed sending a letter to the county to ask the county to revise the public health order. The Del Mar leaders say the current mask or social distancing rules are too ambiguous. They would like those rules to be clearer.
Let's start the newsfeed. New details about how Moderna will charge for its potential coronavirus vaccine. The company's saying for smaller orders, which would be in the millions of doses, it'll be between $32 to $37 a dose. Now, you do compare that to a deal that the U.S. government struck with 2 other companies, where it's $19.50 a dose. Meanwhile, Johnson & Johnson is laying out its plans for a vaccine. The company says it's reached a deal to provide 100 million doses of its potential vaccine to the U.S. There is the possibility of getting 200 million more as part of the deal. Also on the vaccine front, some positive news from Novavax. It says one study showed that participants developed antibodies, and in another, monkeys were protected by the vaccine. A record number of women are running for political office in 2020. The type of woman working to get elected, though, is changing. We're going to talk about what's behind that and the push to get even younger women involved.